Okay, good to go. Always an exciting day, signing day. First one here at Michigan State. A lot of work went into it. I want to thank really the staff, the recruiting staff over these 3 weeks. Things have been moving fast. Really impressed with the coordination and really the work ethic, long hours, all of that. So I can't thank this staff enough. Really excited about the group that we currently today, 2 o'clock, got signed up. And then looking forward to continue to build this roster over the next few months and even all the way into the summer. But this is a great start. Kind of wanted to talk about a little bit how we got here. 3 weeks ago, arrived, excited to meet the team with my first team meeting on that Monday, and then dove into the current roster, trying to grow some relationship there, learn what we have on the roster, positionally, age-wise, things of that nature. And that mindset really hadn't changed over the last 3 weeks. First day was able to get out on the road with coaches and travel to the greater area of Detroit. A bunch of good looking players enjoyed meeting high school coaches around that city. Nick Marsh on day one, being able to see him, meet mom. That's how we attacked the first day, that Friday out. And then really the next week, it still was back to the current roster. Spent a lot of the mornings meeting individually with our current roster players, learning, getting to know them, and then traveled late afternoon, evenings to home visits throughout that first week. All at the same time, trying to hire a defensive coordinator. Brought 6 coaches over here with me that got deep trust and knowledge of, but a huge piece of this was the defensive coordinator. A lot of phone calls, talking to a lot of people interested in the job. Continued to circle back to Joe Rossi. Couldn't be more excited about adding him in the middle of this process over 3 weeks. And then he dove right into it on the recruiting side, helping us get to the finish line. Had huge weekends. Really only had two at the total that we put together. The last one, I think we had close to 20 guys come through on a 3-day span that last weekend. That's going back to, again, thanking the staff and their approach going through this. On this signing class, we are excited. It's heavy on the high school side, which is going to be an emphasis for us, starting really up front, the offensive line, well represented in this crew. Important to get a couple of quarterbacks. Feel awesome about Alessio and Riley coming on board. Continue to build in the secondary side. So, and we're not done. I mean, this landscape now in college football, you can add to your roster 365 days a year. We're in the midst of the portal being open, and so there's opportunities there as well. Visits early in January. We've got a second signing date in February that we're going to attack. Same time, the portal will open again into April. Feel confident we'll continue to add to the roster throughout the year. But back to this day, first day starting, signing day. Feel awesome about these group of young men we're bringing in. Questions?
Chris?
I'm wondering the quarterback situation in particular, when I know we're not going to be talking about the transfer situations, but when you have a guy right now that you kind of identify as a number one, how difficult is it to maybe try and either from the portal or the high school ranks go after someone, particularly in the situation you guys are in with nobody left in that room?
Yeah, we did. We had at one point in time no one on scholarship in that room, and so I almost wanted to flip that perspective as actually a great opportunity to recruit, right? You're trying to draw quarterbacks at that position, and when there's no one currently in the room, that's attractive to players. Obviously, yes, we are going to be adding through the transfer portal, and a lot of that becomes public and things, and so that's a key piece of that position. Really excited about the 2 guys that we're adding with Alessio and Ryland. Ryland we've known longer. We've been recruiting Ryland for a long time. Alessio, Coach Langer got out to the school and the house, got to meet him and the family. They were on visits, good people that we feel both of those guys can play at a high level, and both of them will be here in January.
Want to go back to the 3-week stretch here and what kind of a run that was. I mean, you're trying to hire a staff, as you said. You're probably getting your secretaries. You're trying to find a house. You have all this to do at such an important recruiting time. What kind of a challenge has this been?
Yeah, it's a challenge that we were diving into and navigating, doing our best. Again, it started with the idea that you're trying to recruit and retain your current roster, and so not completely detaching from those guys. Spoke to the team that way. It wasn't going to just go to a day and run through 8 different high schools when the opportunity. There's good players here, and making sure that those guys at least hear the vision and feel comfortable with that. And then, yes, you're trying to add to the roster through the recruiting thing. On the hiring piece, was going to be deliberate on that. And again, it's about the fit, obviously, expertise, but the type of man that you're going to add to the staff. And so that was part of that process all in this last 3 weeks.
And you knew that you were gonna have some attrition after that meeting from people who chose to left here. Did you just kind of accept that as part of the job?
Yeah, we understood the situation that, those guys had been through previously, and that's the landscape now in college football. They can go and explore options. I think it was painted pretty clear to them, if you're going to go in the portal, it's my responsibility to actively work to replace them. And so we continue to recruit some of them, some have come back. At the same time, we're working to replace them. I think we've done a good job of it.
Hey, Jonathan, the front here. I was wondering, you inherited some commits, and then obviously there were guys that you recruited previously to Oregon State. I guess how did you blend those two? And is there a common denominator in what you and your guys kind of sold them for, signing with this?
Yeah, I think we blended it really well. Yes, there were current guys that were committed to the place before we arrived. We tried to dive into those guys and again, communicate the vision. Obviously, evaluate, make sure the fit is right on both sides, which it really was with these guys that can play. At the same time, we had some deep-rooted relationships with previous players that were committed elsewhere that I think a lot of this in recruiting is about the relationship. They had felt good, got them out here on campus to make sure they stay in the environment and landed a good place with those guys.
What's it like when you're trying to recruit somebody to the West Coast, and then all of a sudden from Hawaii they're going to
Yeah.
Lansing in December?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different location that you're recruiting to, but there's a lot to sell here. And what attracted me to the job was similar to what attracted these recruits.
Jonathan, over here, I've got two for you. One, when you come in and there's a list of previous commits and there's sort of a blueprint for how the previous staff is going about it, how much communication did you have with them, with Harlan, and sort of and then putting together your own attack and approach for it? And then part of that is there a role for Harlan? What's going on with Harlan? Is he going to be part of your staff?
Right. We did use it. There's a lot of people still in the building that have been here previously, and so getting background information on what, learning about the particular recruit. A lot of what previously was sold Michigan State-wise is still here. You talk about the education, the facility, the conference, the people around the place, all of that, so that was pretty consistent. On Harlan's end, he's been helpful as well. Met with him now a couple of times, just given the landscape, his approach. Yet to be determined on Harlan. He's got opportunities to other options and things, and so we'll see where that lands.
The other question is with NIL, which is obviously a huge part of everything, and you had a system and an approach at Oregon State. I'm wondering if you brought that here and if you could sort of share your approach and philosophy with NIL.
In regards to NIL, I think the resources around here, the opportunities are really good. I've learned more and more being here 3 weeks on what that all is. Again, we had approaches at Oregon State that are going to be similar here, and not just in the NIL space, offense, defense, schematically, how we evaluate, how we develop players around here, and so there'll be some similarities.
I wanted to ask you about Ohio. Obviously, it's a big secondary recruiting territory for Michigan State for a lot of years. Talking to the Austin Place coach last night, he said that they're excited that Michigan State's back in Ohio, and that you guys are actively involved with high school coaches again in that area. What has your reception been like in that key area?
Yeah, that is a big area. There's a lot of good players. There's a lot of good high school coaches. And again, I'm not trying to claim like I'm the expert yet, but our intention will be to, again, use these months of January, getting around those high school coaches, because there's players there. We want to make some inroads in 3 weeks in these hotbeds of locations where players are. This state, Ohio, within driving distance, give us a little time and we're going to get there.
You mentioned the first day you were able to go out and recruit. You saw Nick Marsh. I'm just curious, what stood out about him as a person and a player as well?
Yeah, from the get-go, you talk about a good young man. I mean, humble. Talked about his teammates, well-spoken. you really loved Michigan State for a while now, getting to know him, kind of what he values. He helped us recruit at the same time, so he's been a great teammate that way. He met Mama Tron as well, and she's been helpful in the recruiting process as well.
When it comes to, like you mentioned, having to like pitch your vision to a lot of these recruits and the current roster and stuff, we talked a little bit at your introductory press conference about what that is. But when there is like a new coach coming in and a new staff, sometimes there's uncertainty about what can happen with the program.
Sure.
So I guess how has the vision maybe solidified since over the last 3 weeks? Like what is your selling pitch and kind of what has been the reception from some of the recruits?
I think uncertainty, but also opportunity. I think, opportunity to kind of fresh start. Got a proven track record of doing things a certain way. I think Michigan State, again, sells itself with so much beyond just the facility upgrades have been phenomenal when you get these guys on campus, the educational opportunities, the academic support, the support from a fan base that is passionate. So there's a lot to sell in regards to opportunity.
Jonathan, in the front here again. I know you said TBD on Harlan, whether he'll be part of the staff, but with the 2 openings you have, do you know which direction you plan to go? Because it looks like you might be filled out offensively, but, just...
Yeah, kind of fluid on those last 2 spots, kind of just thinking through, again, getting Coach Rossi over here in regards to some of his vision to finalize the defensive side. Obviously, got to answer the special teams side as well. So we'll kind of see. It was not going to rush on those decisions. We want to make sure, again, the particular person to fit on both sides. And then the current setup of finalizing defense and answering for special teams, we're sorting that out.
Jonathan, right here. You mentioned the other day at your press conference about diving in and learning the history of the program. I'm wondering how much you're able to catch up on the Michigan State's history with Hawaii and Hawaiian players, and how much you were able to learn, and how much you think that maybe helped in landing the 2 guys.
Yeah, I've learned a little. Yeah, there's a history there on that end, and so that helped to extend both players coming over from Hawaii we've known deeply now for a long time, make it physical at the line of scrimmage, and so we love to, again, we're all into the diversity, love to start inside out location-wise, but we're going to go where we need to find players.
Was it something they were aware of, just being natives out there that Michigan State?
You know what, I don't know for certain if they were aware or not.
I got you.
Yeah, wonder about the 2 running backs that you brought in, obviously guys that you knew and were familiar with. How are their styles different and similar? And the second part of that is a guy like Frazier, it seemed like he could play some linebacker if you needed him to as well. Do you have other guys that you kind of want to see? And I think there's a couple guys in the class that could go either direction if you want them to.
Well, we love running backs that have some versatility. Both Brandon and Kai have some physicality to them, and so that stands out that they're similar. Again, good high school players, especially at running back, should have the capabilities of playing some defense at the high school level, but currently the plan is them to carry them.
When you were selling especially the recruits on the West Coast, to MSU, how much did you pitch the idea that you guys would be coming in kind of on the ground floor together, that this was going to be a learning process for everyone involved? How much was that a convincing pitch to someone?
Well, yeah, it was, but the selling point, especially the guys that are arriving in January, they're on the ground level and learning schemes in all 3 phases, right? Offense, defense, and special teams. Everyone in the locker room is starting at the same level there, so the opportunity for that. Again, I think it's something to be cool about building something. And again, we're not going to be sitting here overly patient. We're trying to build something quick and be really, really competitive this fall. But the opportunity to come on the ground level was part of the recruiting pitch.
You've featured the tight end position in the past. Can you talk a little bit about Wyatt Hook and what you saw about him initially and what attracted you to him in that process?
Yeah, Wyatt we've known for a while, makes it physical, but is athletic and catch the ball size-wise. He looks what we're looking for in length, weight, height, all of that. And so, yeah, the background we've had offensively with the tight end spot, we feel like he's a perfect fit.
And when you've got some of those players to come in and look at Michigan State, what were their reactions to it?
They were excited about it. Again, we talked to knowing these guys for a while, and then coming over, seeing the facility piece. They knew the people for the most part, but just the environment, the location, the stadium, learning more about the school, the academic support is phenomenal around here, and so they responded really well.
Jonathan, when you got here, you said you hadn't even had a chance to walk around campus yet. I guess, obviously, and everything else you've been doing, have you had a chance to kind of get out? Seen you had a couple basketball games now. What's that been like over the last couple?
That's been fun. Basketball games, hockey game, that's been fun. I plan on getting to more and more when it somewhat slows down for me. So it's been, again, I want to thank, again, the welcome that people around here have been, not just to me, the family, the staff as well. So I'm anxious to get to more and more events, and I haven't got to all the campus yet, and people to get that done.
Also, the Lundieski twins, they were already committed earlier. As you've gotten to know them, what have been your impressions? And when you looked at them on film, what did you think?
Yeah, physical, athletic, at the line of scrimmage, both in great personalities. They're tight at the hip, but they also were a part of helping us recruit. Been there with this place for a long time, getting to know them on a personal level. I'm excited about them joining us.
I know you dropped the puck. I don't know how long you stayed. How did you enjoy your first ice hockey game?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I wish I could have. I was meeting a lot of people during the game, but I definitely enjoyed it. I mean, the student section's packed, the energy in the place, the physicality. I hadn't been to a hockey game in like 20 years, so I'm definitely going back.
On recruiting, there's a perception out there, really perceived, that it's not about high school recruiting anymore. It's about how you manage the portal. You made it clear at your introductory press conference and again today that high school recruiting is still important. That's a priority to you?
Yeah, 100%. We want to be a place of development. The longer you have a player to develop, the better and better he's going to get. Well, I'm not saying we're going to be exclusive just to the high school rights, but managing your roster, you can add through high school, yes, through the portal, develop walk-ons, a place of development. So we do want to be still core about high school, not exclusive, but the core being from that age.
Yeah, it's been pretty obvious. You mentioned about some of the young guys, the recruits who were helping you recruit. What about the guys on the roster right now? It seems like Ken Talley's a guy that's really been active. Who else has been helping them?
I think Sim was a huge part as well. He's got some influence. We win, especially the first weekend we had visitors. The current players were helping. And that's a huge benefit. I think one of the biggest pieces in recruiting is your current roster. They can keep it real on their experience on how it's going. And so I appreciate you guys giving effort, not just when they're on campus, but social and things like that.
The calendar as it stands now, is it fair to you, to a new staff, to the players who are trying to make decisions, you've got to be on the road now, or would it be better when it was in February, you got to grind through January?
Yeah, I don't know what fair, it's not ideal, I know that. And that's not just specific to our setup here at Michigan State in 3 weeks. I just think there is a lot going on in 1 month in regards to coaching changes, the portal being open really throughout the month, early signing day, people making decisions on early signing day when the portal's still open. There seems like there's a better avenue, recipe, calendar-wise. I'm not saying I know it, but there's just a lot going on this month.
On that, is there do you think the preseason, like in August signing day?
Yeah, I mean, there's ramifications. I can start, you go to August, that early signing date is that can affect high school players. Are they going to continue to play their high school senior year? Are they opting out when they already got their scholarship? And so there's a lot to consider there, oftentimes the guys are making their decisions earlier, so now you're back to waiting all the way just to February. There's ramifications there. Not a simple solution. I'll just go back to there is a lot going on in December.
Jonathan from here again. I was wondering with, I think, a half dozen early enrollees so far, and you mentioned some of the transfers probably do too. How important is that to get these guys on campus, especially the ones that you're not familiar with, as far as having played for you at Oregon State, to learn this system, and then obviously the guys returning?
Yeah, it's huge. Anytime you can start as fast as possible, so the guys that are arriving in January, getting acclimated, getting into the weight room, obviously learning their side of the ball schematics-wise, learning their teammates, so it's huge to have a good number. We'll have a good number of them here in January.
And then with the guys, there are a number of guys still in the portal. Do you anticipate retaining some of these guys that are out there looking
to be determined. We're definitely aggressively trying to retain a few, not all, but a few, and we'll, again, in this day and age, they've got that option, but we'll see where that lands.
So give it a couple more.
The first year, do you feel like you have to sell yourself individually more so than the program in convincing recruits to come maybe versus when they're, 2 or 3 years into it, we
Right.
can sell more of the program itself?
That's a good question. Probably 50-50 in regards to, you gotta sell yourself a vision of what you want this thing to look like. The longer it goes, you've got a background of being in the program, and they've got an idea of what the identity is. I still go back to this place, there's a lot to sell about Michigan State, Michigan football, the fan base, athletics in general, so about 50-50.
So when you set out to put this class together 3 weeks ago, daunting task, a big challenge, is it about what you expected or did it exceed what you expected? How did it all come together?
Right. It probably exceeds right now. I'm thinking about that first week on what we had to undertake here. But I'll go back to, we are not done. I mean, this thing is the start. We're really excited about where we're started, but you can add to your roster over the next 6-8 months, and we plan to do it.
You said at your introductory press conference you wanted to utilize the February signing period also.
Yep.
Do you anticipate some decent talent out there?
I think there will be, and we're gonna, uncover rocks and dig into it and that kind of thing. So we'll see. I don't anticipate being this big, this many numbers, but we're definitely looking.
Any specific positions for February that are
Still sort that out. Again, we'll get into how this portal closes and see where we're at, and we'll be able to identify our needs from there.
And one more thing about the quarterbacks, Milo Vojovic and Rylan Jesse, your thoughts about those two as prospects?
Yep, again, Rylan we've known for a longer amount of time, athletic, can throw it. We've seen him a couple of times. We were chasing him at Oregon State for a while, built a relationship, football family, good football there. Lesio, getting to know him over the last 2 weeks on tape. This guy can make throws down the field, which we want to be able to do in the offense. I think the guy is a football nut, studies it, knows it inside and out. Great family when they're here for the weekend, so really excited about both of them.
John, I'm wondering, going on quarterbacks, as a quarterback guy, I'm wondering, do you have a sort of a rigid framework of traits and things that you like in that position, or can they come in all shapes and sizes and different varieties?
They can come in all shapes and sizes. Size does help. I kind of try to simplify it down to this. We're looking for a shortstop in regards to a skill set, movement-wise, can make plays in the hole, but still make that big-time throw. We're not looking for a third baseman overly, but they got to be able to play that side of the field to throw.
I also wanted to ask you about Courtney Hawkins. You've retained him since we talked to you. What went into that decision? Obviously, a guy who knows this place and area, and what's he meant to your staff at this point?
Enjoyed getting to know him. Deeply passionate about this place. Got some track record of playing this game at the highest level, developing talent. Loved the idea that he'd spent some time at the high school ranks and what he did for that school and that community. Learning that story was really fun and impressive to hear. So really excited he's on board.
I know you've got a lot going on, this may be looking too far ahead, but coaches do spring ball different ways. Do you have a spring calendar yet, or is it too early?
Not defined, targeted around starting mid-March and go from there.
You hope to have a spring game, or don't you know yet?
Don't know yet. We'll see what this roster looks like and all of that, but we definitely got some work to do in spring and looking forward to that.
I talked to Mike Riley last week, and he kind of said the best advice he would be able to give is just knowing that you have to build at your own rate. I know you mentioned you want to be competitive this fall, but how do you balance, having the pressure to rebuild this program quickly and be competitive, but also knowing that it's going to take some time to implement your scheme, implement your culture and everything?
I think we want to be consistent, and again, we're going to aggressively attack to develop, and we buy through development. These guys playing the best football they can, and I'm excited about the opportunities, this roster, what it will look like come this summer. Confident that we'll put a really competitive product out there. Not overly patient in regards to we're not just casually going into the mindset of like, okay, year 3, we gotta get this thing going. But we want to be consistent in our approach.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.